Welcome to Food for Thought, the place to explore, celebrate, and manifest a life motivated and defined by unconditional compassion and optimal wellness. My name is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, and I am your host. This is another special episode that originally aired on the World Vegan Travel podcast. I sat down with my travel business partner and dear friend, Brighde Reed of World Vegan Travel, with whom I run the Joyful Vegan Trips. And we sat down with some of our travelers from our tour of Northern Italy trip called Mountains, Lakes, and Canals, because it's a trip filled with mountains, lakes, and canals. And it's an incredible trip. We spend a lot of time outdoors. We hike the Dolomites. We are in Venice. We are at Lake Garda. It's just really a beautiful, incredible part of Italy that not a lot of, I'll even say North Americans go to. And I can tell you that one of our travelers who you would have heard on the Tuscany trip, who might be listening right now, Ritika, she came with us to Tuscany. She came with us to Northern Italy in 2022, and she has just signed up for Northern Italy 2023 again. So it's that good a trip. Take it from Ritika, and she's going to talk about it along with some other travelers who will share, what their thoughts were about group travel before they came on the trip. Some of them hadn't been on our trips before. Some of them were repeats, which is something we're really grateful to say we have a lot of. Some people are intimidated by group travel, or they think it's not going to allow for a lot of your own alone time and independence. And you'll hear what everybody says. I'll give you a little spoiler. Most people are concerned about that. And we do allow people to have as much alone time as they like. And no one wants it. Everyone wants to spend time together, which is just really absolutely lovely. So we talk about that. We talk about some recommendations for Northern Italy, highlights from the trip itself, surprises on the trip, and not surprises that would be ruined if you came, but surprises like, oh, I didn't expect this. And the just tips and rewards of group travel, of international travel, of vegan travel, and whether you come on a joyful vegan trip or not. If you're interested in Northern Italy, if you're interested in group travel, if you're interested in a joyful vegan trip, I really encourage you to listen to this episode, and I hope you enjoy it. So sit back, relax, and take a listen.
Welcome to the World Vegan Travel Podcast. I'm excited to be here again with you, with my friend Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, and we have got something special again to share with you today. Hi, Colleen.
Hi, Freddie. Hi, everybody.
So today we are going to be doing something similar to an episode that we released a short while ago, and we're going to be talking about Northern Italy, and we're going to be actually meeting some of our travelers who are kindly giving some of their time today to share their tips, trips, their favorite memories, and their highlights of their trip to Northern Italy, our inaugural trip to Northern Italy. And I'm just so excited to see them again.
I'm excited to see them again. It's been really lovely. One of the things we do, as we talked about in the Tuscany episode, is we still keep our WhatsApp channels open. So watching everyone still connect, I think that's one of the most special things about these trips, and I think our travelers will attest to that, is the relationships that form and the connections that form because of these trips. And so to watch everyone still connecting on WhatsApp is really encouraging. And I think some people have already had some in-person reunions, and we've only been home for a very short time, and it's just so lovely to see. And so I think this is just another way to bring people together. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's super exciting, and I'm really interested to know some of the answers to the questions that we have planned for them. And I really hope, listeners, that if you are heading to Northern Italy, you'll have some inspiration to travel to Northern Italy, because we did some really, really fun, cool things that vegans will just love to do. And also, if anyone is interested in our Northern Italy trip, I think it's half full, right, Colleen, for next year?
It is half full for next year.
Yeah, lots of people are interested in going to Northern Italy. Well, I'm not surprised. It's such an amazing place. It was your first time, your second time, I should say, to Northern Italy, right, Colleen? Did you really enjoy it?
It was It was our second time, yeah, and it was incredible, and I can't wait to talk about it. And I do think this is a really special place because I don't think a lot of Americans go to northern Italy. I think that's pretty typical to go to more of the southern parts, the central parts of Tuscany and Umbria and the south and Sicily, et cetera. But I don't think a lot of Americans, especially North Americans, make it to northern Italy. And so that I think is one of the reasons this particular trip sells out really quickly. It happened last time, it happened for the trip that we're going to be talking about, and it's already happening again for next year. So keep that in mind, everybody. It fills up quickly.
Fantastic. So, if anyone is interested in more details about the Northern Italy trip for 2023 or future Northern Italy trips, we're hoping to do these on a pretty regular basis, then you can just go to the show notes and learn more. If you want to book a call with me to learn more about this trip, then feel free. All right, let's go meet our Northern Italy travelers. Hi, hello, all of you. Thank you so much for joining us on the World Vegan Travel podcast. Our travelers from Northern Italy in 2022. Thank you so much. Would you mind saying your name and where you're calling from?
I'm Allie from New York.
Hi, I'm Ritika. I live in Los Angeles.
Hi, Terry and Dave from Northern New Jersey.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Sally from Bronx, New York.
Love it. We have like West Coast and East Coast, West Coast here. New York, New Jersey, and California. That's awesome. I love it. Hi, everybody. It's so good to see your faces. It's so lovely to connect with you. I love the connections I'm seeing continuing on the WhatsApp group. I love it so much. It makes me so happy to see everybody still just talking and so super excited. Um, and so thank you for being here. So the first question I have is, what made you choose the Northern Italy trip? That's my first question. What was it about the trip? What was the only thing available? What was it? Why did you join us for the Northern Italy trip? Ali, can we start with you since you're with?
Yes. So I've done a good amount of traveling through Italy over the years, and I hadn't spent much time in Northern Italy. And I had also always heard these ideas that the food is really made with a lot of butter and cream and eggs. The pasta's fresh, and that there's a lot of cream sauces compared to the South and Central Italy. And so I thought, well, why don't I take the guesswork out of it and go with a group that will think about all of that for me and make sure that I have great meals and great company and do great activities. So that motivated me to go on this trip.
Right on. Super helpful. We're going to talk more about the food too, because that's a huge component of it. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Ritika, what about you?
Mm-hmm. So I was one of the 3 people who decided to do both the Tuscany and Northern Italy trip. And a huge reason why, because I was originally just going to do Tuscany, and a huge reason why I decided to add on the Northern Italy trip was just because it felt so different from what we normally hear of when we go to Italy, like going to the Alps, being able to be in parts of Italy that it's not really common to see Americans there. Like it was just so alluring. And a same thing that Ali said in terms of the diet predominantly being not very vegan friendly, and knowing that we would get to try dishes that were maybe traditional variations of and being vegan, and be able to see such gorgeous, like beautiful places. It just really drew me that I wanted to add on and really have the whole experience, and I have no regrets about doing that.
I can't wait to get back to you about that because you really can speak to the difference between a place like Tuscany and a place like Northern Italy. So yeah, yay, awesome. Sally, what about you?
For me, it was more, I went to the Tuscany trip first just out of getting out of COVID thing, and I came back on such a high that I really wanted to travel with you guys again. And Northern Italy came around, and I figured, why not? I'm already learning Italian, so I'm going to do it. And I'm glad I did because, yes, like Ritika said, it's a different experience. And that was one of my concerns. Like, I had such a great experience in Tuscany. I didn't know what to expect. And it was just an amazing time. So,
Yeah, thanks. And to be just to clarify, Sally was with us on the Tuscany trip in October of 2021, and then joined us in the Northern Italy trip of 2022. So yeah, thanks, Sally.
If I understand well, Sully, it was a video of us in the boat taxis in Venice that finally inspired you to book. Is that right?
that definitely pushed me to hit send. Yes.
We were doing a little FOMO. We were doing a little FOMO ride on our boat taxi when we first arrived. The four of us, when we after the Tuscany trip in October, the four of us were in Venice, and I believe we sent a little video. And Sally's like, "I'm talking to my boss today," and you did. Awesome. What about you, Terry and Dave?
Um, I have never been to Italy or Europe, so this was my first trip, and there was a couple things. Well, I'm always watching your Instagram, so I definitely was. This is beautiful. One thing that was really exciting was that there was a lot of like hiking. We like to be really active, and I hadn't heard of a lot of the places that you know where we were going to go in northern Italy. It just isn't as common. That was exciting. The one more thing was that the actual trip was booked to be a day or two longer. So I figured I want to go as long as I can for the longest trip possible. So that was a big pull too.
Nice. What about you, Dave? Same thing.
And I like that it was active. I just thought that added more dimension to it.
I have a question for you all. What were your expectations about this trip beforehand? Like, I know some people can feel a little bit anxious about a trip to a new place with new people that they haven't met before. So what were your expectations, and how did the trip compare with your expectations? Ali?
I think there's always, always had a little bit of a concern about going on a group tour like this. I've done some domestic hiking trips with smaller groups and knew what to expect from that. But I think going with over 20 people, moving around to hotels and being on a tour bus, I wasn't exactly sure how it was going to work logistically, but it was amazing. It was seamless. The accommodations were each one was better than the next. And I never felt like I was spending my day on a bus. There was a really good mix of activities, of eating, of touring, of walking around cities, of having downtime as well, which was important to me. And so it was a great experience, and I know that I will do it again.
From my experience, at least, I was worried compared to the Tuscany trip that what if the Northern Italy trip would feel rushed because we were doing a larger number of cities and moving from hotel to hotel. And it didn't feel that way at all. And honestly, any worries I had about the whole group experience and even traveling with World Vegan Travel for the first time completely dissipated once I did the Tuscany trip first. I was so excited. And I I I felt like the itinerary was very well balanced, and it just felt like everything seamlessly flowed. We had some downtime, and we also had time to just really enjoy what we were exploring of northern Italy. So I really enjoyed that part too.
I will say that Seb really works really hard on that. He spends one whole day for each day of the trip at home going through every possible scenario. So, like, okay, today is day 3 of northern Italy, and he just goes through everything, like thinking, how can this be rushed? How long is it going to take? What will we need? And so, I'm not. That's a testament to him on making it not feel too rushed. I mean, maybe there were some rushed times, but he's always looking to kind of minimize that. Okay. Sally, what about you? What were your expectations about Northern Italy and how did they compare?
Um, I guess, like Ratika said, because I had done Tuscany with you guys already, I already knew I was gonna relax and you guys were gonna take care of everything. So I already knew I'm good. Seb and Brighde are there. My main concern was this time I was going with my husband, Taylor. So I was concerned that he wasn't going to be okay with just having this structured time laid out for us. And thankfully, he really had a great time. He thought everything was well laid out. You guys did an amazing job. So once he was enjoying himself, then I was even more relaxed.
Fantastic. And what about you, Terry and Dave?
So I was completely, I watch a lot of Instagram stories of Colleen's, and then I was also started to follow Big World Travel. So now I'm like constantly watching you guys, excited. I sort of hoped I could go on that trip, but it was like a dream come true when we booked it. And I thought that I'd seen a lot of the places because I was watching it on Instagram. But when I got there, every day was, I think, like Ali said, just every place, everything was better than the next. I couldn't believe it. I met Jim the first night we got to the first hotel, and I had seen it before through stories and pictures. And I just was crying when I met him, looking out at the back of the villa. And he said, I know how you're feeling. I felt this way when I got to Tuscany. And I said, I just can't even believe that this is real life. Like, it didn't even look real. The pictures that you see when Colleen and Brighde are posting, or the videos, they can't even compare to when you get there and you're actually seeing everything for the first time. So between just places that you had us staying, the food that we were eating, everything was so amazing. I couldn't believe it. The other thing that I couldn't have imagined was like the relationships that we build with people, and how like I fell in love with everybody. And the other thing that exceeded my expectations was actually meeting Colleen, because Colleen had helped me very much through her podcast and through her book. And to see her it felt very emotional. Like right away, I was crying the first day I met her. I cried every day on that trip out of gratitude, but it was like, I'm a crier. But it was like just so unimaginable. Like I had so much to be grateful for, and to have that such a great time with my husband it was just pure joy, like every day. So it far exceeded every expectation. And vegan world travel, like Seb and Brighde are beyond like taking care of you on every level. I felt we were all so well taken care of, and I never could have imagined. I couldn't have had such a successful trip. I don't think everything was perfect.
Yeah, I marveled at how we got to so many places, and it was all comfortable. And I thought maybe it was going to be not enough to do, and we were so busy the whole time, but not too busy. And we got to see so many different places. I just thought it couldn't have put together any better. So I was really surprised and pleased with that. My favorite was being in the mountain meadow. I just couldn't believe the beauty of that place.
Yeah, what Dave is referring to is the Dolomites. No, you're fine. You're fine, Dave. Everything's great. What Dave is referring to is the Dolomites, which is this beautiful UNESCO World Heritage alpine pasture. And it's one of these places that not a lot of North Americans go to. It's very popular with Europeans, but it's kind of like a little bit of a challenge to get there, because it's like an hour from the closest train station, and it's several hours from a big city. So not many people go there, but it is beautiful. And we were so lucky with the weather that on our hiking day. It was just incredible.
It was amazing. And to what, to Terry's point, you can't know how beautiful it is until you're there in the wildflowers. Like if you see a photo of the Dolomites, especially, we were so lucky to have all the wildflowers, it was still spring. And, from far away and in a picture, it looks like just a wave of yellow. But as you're closer, there's just the variety of wildflowers and the colors and you can't describe that you can't see it in a photo. So to see that in person it really was. I mean, we were hiking, and the number of wildflowers that we saw was just mind blowing. So yeah, thank you everybody. I mean, thank you so much. You've touched on so many aspects of this trip, which this trip was so special. And to Brighde's point, it's not a place where a lot of North Americans go. It's just so different and so unique, and the trip itself is very different than the Tuscany trip, for instance, because we're outside so much and we're seeing so many different things and doing a lot of physical activities. So I have a question, because we have two people here on our call who traveled. Well, I mean, we have singles, and we have people who travel with partners or friends, and so I'd love to ask each of you what your expectations were, fears were, thoughts were about traveling on a group trip, because or had you traveled on a group trip before, and did you have any thoughts or concerns about that prior to it? Did your experience change what you thought it was going to be? Were you surprised? Were you pleased? I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are, because group travel is something that some people go, not really sure about that, not really sure what to expect, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Anybody who'd like to start?
I this is Allie speaking. I traveled with one of my very close friends who is not yet vegan, and so I was a little bit. I was curious how she would enjoy the trip, and I wanted to make sure that she felt comfortable with the group. And what we found right away, from the first activity we did together, which was a kind of getting to know each other icebreaker exercise, was that there were many people on the trip who were on different phases and different stages of their vegan journey. And I think everybody was just happy to be together, and very accepting, of everybody where they were and willing to talk and understand and listen. And above that, the food was just so amazing that I think everybody was happy to be eating it, because it was so fresh and used, all the local ingredients, and catered to the specificities of the region. So I thought that was really great. And what I also found was, I think sometimes if you're just traveling alone with one person, that could also be really tough if you're doing an extended trip and you're just one on one with somebody. So having the variety of so many different people and so many new friends, I think actually made the trip really exciting. And we all kind of mixed up our seating at every meal. And so by the end of the trip, we had each sat with every single person multiple times. And there had been different combinations of people, which brings out different conversations. And it just actually was a lot better than traveling, I think, with alone with some really close friends, because we all did some different things throughout the day. And then at mealtime, we were able to come together and talk about how our days went and what we did and what we liked. And I think that added another element to the trip.
As someone who did both trips, and since I did the Tuscany trip right before, I was really curious that, okay, I had this amazing experience in Tuscany. Was this just a one-time thing, or is this an experience I'm going to have every time that I travel with Colleen and World Vegan Travel? And I was very, very pleasantly surprised that it repeats, because the type of people, the type of atmosphere, being a solo traveler, like I felt so welcome and just surrounded by really kind, amazing, open-minded people. And there's such a acceptance of people being on any stage of their vegan journey. Like Ali said, like there's really no judgment, because we're here to just enjoy food, enjoy beautiful surroundings, have good company, and just celebrate. Like even if it's just for those 10 days, like trying vegan food that's absolutely delicious. So that was a huge standout for me, I would say.
I want to add to that, Ratika. I mean, of course, we have this shared interest in Northern Italy, as well as, vegan food, whether you're vegan curious or vegan. But I really love the diversity of people that we have.
I was worried that I'd be like the person that people didn't want to sit with. So I even told Brighde that. So I'd never been big with groups, but I just found that I loved being with everybody. And I think that everybody enjoyed being with everybody. Like Ali was talking about how we all sat with whoever was available and we kept rotating like on purpose. And by the end, you get to know everybody and you miss everybody. And I think that's why so many people are visiting each other and making plans, because we all did connect like every day on the trip, like all day long. And it was wonderful in that respect.
Yeah, I really think that we were quite a diverse bunch of people.
Yes, we can be. This is Terry, Dave's wife, and we are, I'd say, introverts. So it was, we were probably a little worried, it's true. But right away, like before the trip even starts, Seb organized a Zoom call so we could meet everybody and talk. And then as soon as you meet for the first time, there are icebreaker activities. It was really a nice surprise to be so to feel so welcome. And even if you're shy or introverted, I feel like it was really easy to be part of the group.
Yeah, I went on a tour, a group tour many years ago, and it was just to Virginia. It wasn't anything as exciting as this. But one of the things that's different is when you go on a group tour with people you don't know, and I went on that trip by myself also, is you just try to find that person or maybe one or two people that you had something in common with. And I think when I went to Tuscany for that trip, I was scared. I was by myself. I didn't know anyone. Now I'm in Italy to top it all off. And it was just so easy. And I think already having the vegan kind of mindset, in a sense, makes it easier. And yeah, the same thing. You go to breakfast, you go to dinner, you're doing whatever, and everyone is just interested in getting to know you organically, and you're switching seats and you're making sure that you're speaking to everyone and you're getting to know everyone. And when we had the Tuscany trip, that was the same feeling. You go in and now you have repeat travelers. And that was the other thing that appealed to me when I went on my first Zoom call, was to learn that there were people that had been on these trips multiple times. So you wouldn't do this if it wasn't a great experience to start with. So that was already nice. And when I went to Northern Italy, I had two other people that were with me in Tuscany that were repeat travelers as well. So it's been a great experience. And I've never really been one to do group tours. And this one has changed my mind for sure.
Yeah, it's really lovely, I think, because something really magical happens when you get people have similar values, similar interest into a place for an extended period of time when there's no real stress. You know, you can just be really present. You're not having to worry about rushing to a meeting or getting to a call or anything like that. You're just in that moment and seeing amazing things together and having these incredible shared experiences. I think that is definitely something that makes these relationships become so deep and close so quickly. I could be wrong, but that's a theory that I have.
Hi, this is Ritika. One thing I wanted to add, like a huge realization from this trip, like I'm someone who normally does a lot of solo travel and never done group travel, or I'll travel with family and loved ones. And I realized by the end of this Italy trip that I don't think I'm going to solo travel as much because I got so much nourishment and joy and community from both of these World Weekend travel trips, which is huge to say that because it just, I didn't realize like that the impact having a community like this makes. And I just, for anyone who's on the fence, like, oh, I normally do solo travel, like, will I still get the same immersive experience traveling with the group? And I just want to say 100% yes, if not more, because you're with like-minded people who just are so excited to be there. And the depth of conversation makes it so much more real.
I did want to add, like Ali said, Ali went with a friend of hers, and one of the tricky things with sometimes traveling with friends is everyone wants to do their own thing, or everyone has different ideas, and it can get a little sticky. But having this organized trip, you remove that element because things are already laid out for you. The one thing that you need to decide is whether you want to participate in an activity or go on an excursion, or if you choose to stay behind. And there is the time for you to say, no, I'm okay if I want to stay behind, and that is okay too.
Absolutely. I think when you're traveling with other people, there has to be a lot of give and take between the two of you or the group of you, and as a result, it can be some conflict can arise, but that's why you have like Seb in charge. He's the one that's sort of created this itinerary, and if you're not there on time, he'll leave without you.
Yeah, so we talked about a few things that are unique to the Northern Italy trip. So we've touched on the food, and Ali's right. The North has a lot more animal products than Tuscany or the South. The North is a lot wealthier, has been for centuries, than the South or the central part being Tuscany. And the terrain is very different, so larger animals are raised, and so you have a lot of butter, whereas in Tuscany you have olive oil, you have a lot more more meat. And, you know, the part of Italy we were in, this northern part was once part of Austria. And so you also have that playing a huge role in terms of the food that tends to be served and available. And so I think, again, that's one of the things that makes the Northern Italy trip so appealing. We're half sold out already for 2023, and it's not, you know, it's a year away. And this is what happened last year because it's such a unique part of the world, and there's so many more animal products. And so, so it is a significant thing to be able to come and not just have the novelty of vegan food, but actually have really high quality, good food. And like Ali was saying, that's in the backyard of where we are. So the food we touched on, and obviously some of the locations. We talked about the Dolomites a little bit. I want to hear more from you, just each of you, and it could be more than one thing. And I know there's so many things to talk about, but what other highlights were there for you in the Northern Italy trip? Anybody who wants to go?
One of my favorite days on the trip was when we hiked in the Italian Alps. And that was a really beautiful hike. And we ended at midway point for lunch at a German beer hut, German restaurant and beer hut. And to me, being in the north, some kind of what Colleen was saying, that was really surprising to me to see the German influence in the street signs, in the language that people were speaking, and of course in the food. So my dessert that day was an apple strudel. And yes, I went to Italy and I wanted to have tons of tiramisu, which I did, but it was nice to have that dessert one day and to have a beer instead of a glass of wine. And that day actually went on to be an even better day because I ended up hiking down instead of taking the cable car with Ritika, he was on this discussion, and also two other travelers. And that was a real adventure, and it was challenging. And one of the travelers kind of took the lead in navigating us, and it was a long hike down, but we made it, and it felt great after. And the big joke for everybody was that I had booked a spa appointment, and we needed to get me back in time for it, which we did with 15 minutes to spare. So I really earned that massage that day.
That really was a fun day, and that beer hut, that our refuge, I guess we could call it, was just absolutely stunning on the side of the mountain. It was so nice, and drinking a radler, having a big plate of mushroom risotto or pasta after our hike was so much fun. And yes, that was really cool that you went off and did extra hiking. And yeah, this is something we're always prepared to do, is try to figure out a way to, if there are people that want to be very, very adventurous and do their own thing, to make that happen. And I think Michele pointed you in the right direction for that extra hike, right, Ali?
Yes, he did. We did not get lost.
Yeah, I'll stretch that question because Ali used the word surprise, and so whatever it is, whether it was something that surprised you, whether it was something that thrilled you, delighted you, or a highlight for you. But yeah, I think that is one of the things that I think the Northern Italy. I think when people think of Italy, they think of Tuscany. I think they think of the rolling hills, the cypresses. I think that very quintessential Italian landscape. So I think it is an apt question to say, what surprised you about Northern Italy, because it is such a completely different terrain and a completely different place.
It's so hard.
It's constantly amazing, so it is hard.
I think something that stands out is that we stayed at 4 different hotels, and every time I would go someplace, I was sort of blown away, and I'd keep saying to myself, well, I'd be almost sad to leave the prior hotel because I'd think, well, it's not going to be better than this. It's all downhill, not downhill, but you know what I mean? I was just like, how can it be better than this? And then I'd get somewhere else and and the other place was the place we just left was just as beautiful, but I'm just saying it was one experience after another that was so mind-blowing, between the food and the luxurious accommodations. Everything was so just so special that I do not lie when I say I cried every day. I just couldn't believe it. So, and then this might sound just from someone who has never traveled to Europe, but part of me and was thinking, am I going to be eating pasta and pizza all the like a lot? And I was amazed at just the quality of food and the fact that I wasn't eating as much pasta as I sort of thought. I there was so many special dishes made with all kinds of vegetables, and everything was so unique. Everything was just like world class. It was just lovely. So I think I can't pinpoint one exact day, but I just say everything was just beautiful.
Yeah, I thought there were many highlights, food and places we visited. I really liked the museums that day in the turns. Um, both the church museum was just amazing to me, and then I always forget his name.
Otzi?
Otzi. That was just mind blowing. Yeah, and the food. I agree that Lavemea, the chef there, was constantly amazing meal after meal. But my favorite was Asoleto at the first hotel. That was a Michelin star, and that's not why it was so good. But I just thought every course was really good there. So that was my favorite vegan meal of all time.
Yeah, like Colleen said, there's so many. But I think one that stands out to me was the day that we spent on Lake Garda, just because I liked how it was laid out. It wasn't where we just went to the lake and spent an hour there and then got another bus ride and continued on. I love that I think we went east to west, if I remember correctly. We got to stop in the middle, people got to swim, and it was just the day, of course, was perfect. It's like you planned it to be that way. But I think that day stands out to me just because I think it was well laid out, it was well paced, it was such a fabulous day, and it just stands out as a highlight. Venice too, but that one I think is my top.
So for me, I cannot stop thinking about this particular chef's food at the vegan hotel La Vimea in Naturno. His name is Chef Luca, and he's just an absolute genius and so passionate about his food. And I still think about his food almost every day. I'm like, I just want to go back and eat it. And also the food that we had at a restaurant along Lake Garda. One dish had over six different varieties of fresh Italian tomatoes, and it was smoked. And I just felt like this trip had so much umami and complexity in the food, a little different from Tuscany. Both were amazing, but very distinct actually. That really stood out for me. But the food was just incredible. I remember telling people next to me, like, I feel like there's a symphony going on in my mouth. Like, it's just so exquisite and delicious. And that's what I was here for because I do travel for food and like deep down, that's what it is. And to be able to experience things that I could not make on my own and was made from local produce that I couldn't recreate at home, although I could create my own variations through the cooking classes that Colleen has had on these trips. But that was so distinct for me. Like I can just still taste the food in my mouth.
Love it. I love it. I still remember I think that lunch at Lake Garda is still going to go down. It's going to go down in history. And then that tomato dish, I think we all put our forks down and we were just like, what? Are you kidding? Kidding? And then we got on a boat on Lake Garda. So like, it was a pretty good day. So thanks everybody for sharing that. So I have a question for you. I think one of the reasons I think a lot of us would say we travel is to expand our thinking, is to relax, is to see other cultures, is to learn other languages, is to try different foods, is to see museums, to learn history. I mean, there's so many reasons to travel. And I think a lot of people can identify with the idea that you have this traveler's high Hopefully you've had a good, hopefully one has a good experience wherever they travel, in whatever context they travel, wherever they go, such that when you leave, you think, there are things I want to hold on to. There are things I want to take home with me and not lose, and continue to incorporate into my everyday life. And I would love to hear from you. What things did you experience on this trip that you said, I want to keep this, I want to hold on to this, I want to take this back home with me? And have you been able to, whatever it was, incorporate that into your everyday life? So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
So I think when I going into the trip, I tried to be really focused on enjoying the moments and really living in the moments and putting the phone away, and not keeping in communication as much with everybody at home as I might have when I'm in my normal setting. And I think that really made me just enjoy what I was doing in the moment a lot more, and to really come back and actually still be able to feel what it was like in that moment instead of having like a fleeting memory of it. And so I have tried to take that back with me, because I think we have a culture of multitasking, and that means that we're never really 100% committed or dedicated to anything, and that can make us, be not as good as any of the activities that we're doing. So I have tried to take that away with me, and just be more present in each activity that I'm doing.
Yes. So many things. I definitely the beauty, and also the sense of community, like sitting and spending more time together. Like we said, we were the introverts that were nervous about being with people. And I think being more open, uh, in terms of that. But also, I came home so excited, and I'm Italian, and I was telling my daughter and my son-in-law, who we all live together, and I said, we have to get our citizenship. So I've already looked into that, and we also would love to learn Italian. So we've talked a lot about, just opening our horizons and seeing if maybe we can pursue that. So my daughter was helping me on ancestry.com and figuring out the rules and how far we go back, and it looks like it's doable. And Dave is married to me, so he's very lucky because
That's right. On that. Awesome.
By marriage. So I don't know if that, but we've been looking into that, and that's been kind of exciting. And just little like things like, as soon as we had an elderberry drink at La Vimea, it was an elderberry non-alcoholic drink. I like sent a picture to the kids, and I'm like, we're gonna have this at home. So Dave bought me a bottle of that while we were up there in the supermarket. And so just the other day, he made me like a tea with that in it, like an iced tea, and just making little drinks with it, trying to sort of be back there and like relive it.
Yeah, I think this trip showed me that I can meet some challenges. Like I was afraid of the group setting a bit, and I really enjoyed that, and I want to be a little more social. Especially, I was really surprised by how much it was such a nice vegan community, and so we're trying to host a get together and maybe visit some people from the trip. So I thought that's a great takeaway, to have the group to chat with on WhatsApp, and to continue to meet with in person. The fear of heights and water and all this stuff, I confronted a lot of it, and I think it's just also a little reminder that you gotta accept some challenges. You can't just avoid them.
Oh, I think we could have a whole podcast of just Dave. There were a lot of really significant things for you on this trip that you really did overcome some significant things. The heights you were mentioning, for instance, in water, and Allie as well. I mean, there was an issue with boat, we don't hide the fact that the boats are part of this trip, but you still came, and you both, Allie and Dave separately, overcame some things that were fears, I would say, before the trip. It's exciting. It's amazing. You're amazing.
I can say appreciating mountains even more. So since we came back from Italy, Seb and I have been hiking in the mountains a lot, and there's something just really very special about being high up, being in expansive open places with incredible views. And I love walking in the mountains so much, and so much so that Seb and I are going back maybe to the Dolomites. We're not quite sure yet, but for Seb's 50th birthday, we're going to go back to the Alps or to Central Europe. So the love and appreciation of the mountains for sure.
I don't know if I have anything super deep I took away with. I know I want to travel more for sure. I want to go back to Italy. I want to continue to learn the language. So if I think I walked away with this new love for Italy that I didn't think I would have. When I went to Italy the first time, it wasn't because it was like, oh, it's one of the places I've been wanting to travel to. And now it's like I have the Italy bug and the travel bug. So I hope to continue exploring that.
All right, last question for you all. So some people will come on our next year's Joyful Vegan Northern Italy trip, but some people might decide to go to Northern Italy by themselves. What is like a recommendation or a tip that you might like to offer our listeners? It could be like a restaurant, it could be a hotel, it could be an activity, it could be a dish, a drink, or an experience. What is something that you think vegan visitors to Northern Italy should definitely try to include in their itinerary? Ali?
Well, I know that we kind of said we didn't really spend much time speaking about Venice, but it was a very special part of the trip, and it's a really wonderful city. And I had been there before, but going back, it felt really different. So my tip would be to get up early and walk around Venice, because by the time 10 a.m. rolls around, the crowds are out, it's crowded, it's hot. I think I had my best experiences walking around in the 6 and 7 o'clock hour by myself. And I know everybody says, let yourself get lost and don't look at the map. And I did that for a little bit. And then when vegan breakfast was calling, I pulled out the map to get myself back in time so I wouldn't miss those croissants. But yeah, I think Venice is great in the morning.
My tips for people who want to create their own experience would be try to stay at the vegan hotel La Vimea in Noturno, and also the Dolomites. You just cannot miss that.
I can't think of anything. I'd say if you're going to go on your own, you should learn some Italian. But in this group, I didn't have to know any Italian. I did try really hard to learn, but it wasn't necessary at all. And that was a nice relief.
And this is Terry. I would say definitely hike and bring hiking shoes for the rocks. But I would actually say don't do it by yourself. You have to go on this trip with Joyful Vegan, Colleen, with World Vegan Travel. We talked about it constantly. We'd say, you know what? We thought this was, an expensive vacation, but it's so worth it, because really when we were looking at where we were staying, and if we were trying to get to this place and do all these activities by ourselves, we never could have done it. So the experience that we had was well worth it, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. So I would say just do it this way, and you will be so happy. And then you'll be like us, just awaiting the next trip. So start saving after that.
I love it. We did not, that's not an affiliate. We did not pay Terry to say any of that. And we have, as Ali said, Ali is joining us. And so to Sally's point earlier, we're so proud of the repeat travelers. We are so proud of that. And we're so proud of that, not only just because we are proud of that, but also because we get to see you again and the connections we make and the friendships that we develop with you. So Ali is going to be joining us in Botswana. So I can't wait to see you in December. And Rafika is going to be with us in Rwanda. Can't wait to see you in November. And I know we'll see Sally and Terry and Dave again. I know we'll see all of you again. And we hope everybody who's listening that you get to experience this. And we, as we're filling these trips, I have some, more people who I know who are joining these trips next year. And I'm just so happy they're going to be experiencing it, because I will just say also that Brighde and Seb are incredible, and the work they do and the thought they put into every single second of these trips. It's like no other trips. And I can say that because I've been on other trips and I've hosted other trips with other travel companies. And I will just say that there is no experience like a World Vegan Travel trip. So I'm really grateful to partner with Brighde and Seb in doing these trips. And I'm really grateful to connect with so many of you who I've known for different periods of time online and as supporters or podcast listeners and what have you. So it's a real joy and an honor for me to be able to meet you in person, that you put your faith and trust in us, and that clearly it's working, and I'm really grateful for that. So thanks everybody for joining us, and thanks for joining us today. Brighde, take us out.
Can't wait to see you, Ali and Ratika, in a few months, and hopefully see all of you soon. Thank you so much. So I hope you enjoyed that episode, and maybe if you're interested, you will check out the Well Vegan Travel or Joyful Vegan trips to Tuscany and to Northern Italy in June 2023. Stay tuned for more episodes that will help you get ready to discover this beautiful planet, whether you stay in your local area or go further afield. If you are interested in finding out more about Well Vegan Travel and what we do, please check out our website, wellvegantravel.com. And if you like this podcast and want to dig a little deeper into the content we make, you can do that by going to the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us. Consider subscribing and leaving a review, and we hope you'll join us next time.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode as well, and I do hope you're subscribed to the World Vegan Travel podcast. I want to remind you that this podcast, Food for Thought, is listener supported. So if you'd like to join benefactors like David Cabrera and Alexandra Gray, angels like Brooke Boussard, Amy Carlstone, Gina Streiler and Carrie Parker, heroes like Simon Small, Angelica Lofton, Jennifer Statmiller, Jennifer Watkins, Geraldine Hilmar, PJ Schuster, Denise Hoskins, Ranjini Mohan, and Tina Strassheim. You can head over to patreon.com, that was a mouthful, / Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, and become a supporter. As you can tell, one of the perks is being acknowledged in every one of the episodes, depending on the level that you're at. And there are lots of other perks. So if you'd like to make sure podcast episodes like this one continue, check out patreon.com / Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, and be sure to join us on one of our Joyful Vegan trips by going to joyfulvegantrips.com. We have space right now, as of this recording, in Tuscany 2023 and Northern Italy 2023, but they are filling up fast. So I hope to see you in person or here on this podcast. Until next time, for the animals, this is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. Thanks for listening.